Chapter 8. Dan pulled up into the driveway of the house where everything had gone so horribly wrong before. It had been a long drive back to Sunnyvale, Florida. He had pulled over and gotten some sleep, and then he had gotten right back on the road. He was a man on a mission. He had left late the night before, and had slept at some point during the morning hours, but it was night again. It had taken a while, maybe almost a full day to get there. He had no idea what time it was, but that didn't really matter. Time was an invention of man, and what he was doing was bigger than man, even one like himself. He got out of the car and made his way to the front door. Even though it was dark out, he could see that the house was not the same color it had been when he had stayed there. It had been a puke green before, but it had been redone in a light red that was almost pink. It almost looked like it was trying to be a dollhouse. It was hideous. The room he had built around the carport was no longer there either. It had gone back to just being a carport. There was a Mazda minivan parked in the driveway under the covering. He made it to the small concrete slab of a front porch and rung the doorbell. He could hear the television playing loudly inside, and people were laughing. That was no matter. They would leave him alone with her. He would make them if he needed to. He was sure she would not want to be embarrassed in front of her highfalutin friends, and she would probably make them leave herself. She better do that, for the good of everyone involved. The television fell silent. The porch light came on, and the front door opened. There was only a flimsy screen door between him and the man who had answered. The man was rather large and black. If she had replaced him, and he was sure she had many, many times, he was reluctantly flattered by her choice of a substitute. He had always given it to her good, and this sucker looked like he could do some damage with his endowments as well. Through the compliment he felt, he was also disgusted at her choice to be with a dirty nigger. He was also resenting the man, not just for milking his way into a white home, but also for trying to be his replacement. He did not appreciate the attempt at a menacing posture the man was putting on either. He may be big, he may be black, but he had no idea who he was up against. "What do you want?" the man huffed at him. "Where is she?" Dan demanded. "Who?" "Don't give me that, you know who." He was not going to play the game. "Honey, who is it?" a female voice asked from out of sight. Suddenly a hand with red nail polish on it wrapped around the door and pulled it further open. The man pushed her back to try to protect her from whoever was at their door. He was right to do so. Dan was glad to see he was making an impression, but his position changed when he saw the woman inside. She was black, too. He could see into the living room, since the door had been opened wider. There were two young black boys on the sofa. A video game was paused on the screen. The controllers were still in their little black hands. Dan had figured things might have changed since he had been away for almost 15 years. That number of years dawned on him on the drive there. He had no idea that it had been that long ago. It all still felt so fresh. Even though he told himself to expect some change, he knew things didn't change that much. "Who are you people?" he asked them in confusion. "We're the people who live here. Who the hell are you?" The man was trying to turn the tables. "Honey, don't be like that," the woman said as she lightly touched the man's arm. "He is obviously lost." She looked at Dan. "Who are you looking for?" she asked him. There was kindness and respect in her voice. He appreciated that. "The woman that used to live here, she had really long hair?" The man stood his ground and continued to look upon Dan with suspicion. The woman answered, "We don't know anything about the previous tenants. We just got this house through our realtor. She did all the finagling for us." Dan was disappointed again. Nothing was going right. How could he achieve his greater purpose when monkey wrenches were constantly being thrown into the works? "I'm sorry that we're not able to help you," the woman added, trying to insinuate a goodbye. Dan was not ready to leave yet. He needed an answer. The man continued to stare at him, as did the boys on the sofa. "Maybe you can help," Dan said after he decided to take a shot. "Oh, here we go," the man said, as if he was expecting a solicitation. "Look, mister, my wife already said that we couldn't help you. Good night, and don't come back." The man began to close the door. His woman spoke up and began to quietly argue with her man. It was over in 2 seconds. She reopened the door to where it had been. "I'm sorry," she said from around her man, who was still guarding her. "We don't have any money or anything, but how can we help?" she asked Dan. He was a little insulted. He didn't need those people's money. He had gotten his own from Cherry. No, it's nothing like that. I was just wondering if I could use your phone book." "You're not coming in my house," the man said to him. Dan was pleased that he was so threatening to the man. The man had good instincts. "It's in the kitchen," the woman told Dan. "I'll be right back." She disappeared to go and get it. Dan and the man just stared at each other in the woman's absence. She came back in a moment. She opened the screen door. "Here you go," she said to Dan as she handed him the phone book. "Thank you," he replied appreciatively as he took it. He began flipping through it. The man was getting impatient. He was huffing and puffing. That did not matter to Dan. He continued looking through the residential section for the name he was searching for. The man and the woman exchanged a look at each other. "Keep it and go!" the man barked and slammed the door. Dan took it back to the car and turned on the light inside. He took a swig from the bottle of Jim Beam Black that had been tucked under the seat. He saw the living room curtain move on the house's window. They could call the police. He would be long gone by the time they showed up. He was in the B section, making his way through it. He found it at last. She was still in town. The year on the phone book was current. She had a new address. He had that new address, too. With that, he drove away from the house. He could feel the relief that his leaving caused the people behind him. He liked that feeling. They were right to feel that way. Chapter 9. "So, Rob, what special skills do you have?" Mike asked him from behind the tiny desk in the broom closet of an office. Sue was sitting right next to Rob on the other fold-out chair. She had told him all about Mike the Dick. Rob thought for a moment about what it would be like if he really did tell him about his newly acquired skills, and then shook the thought from his head. "I'm a hard worker and a fast learner. As my application says, I was a busboy briefly, so I've already had some experience with restaurant work." That was some time ago." Mike held up the application and reviewed the employment history section. "It says that was back when you were 15. "That's right," Rob said, and looked nervously at Sue. He needed the job for the money to help her out with bills in the near future. "What have you been doing in the meantime?" Mike asked as he folded his hands on the small desk. Sue interjected, "Oh, cut the officious crap, Mike. We heat and sell slabs of meat. It's not rocket science." "Now, Sue," Mike responded calmly, "I know you have been through a great deal lately, and we have been very accommodating by giving you the time off that you need." "You have to give me that time off. It says so in the contract. There is an allowable grievance period of 5 days. I took it. Thank you, but you didn't do me any great favors." Mike looked flabbergasted. "Excuse me, sir," Rob said to him. He could tell that Mike liked being called sir. He knew the type. "It is all very clearly stated what I've been doing with my time since I was 15. I've pretty much worked nonstop since then, and the bank was my last employer. My requirements at the bank exceeded anything that would be asked of me here." "If you were so overqualified, then why should I hire you? What's to keep you from leaving this line of work to jump back into a job that pays you closer to—" Mike referred to the application again. $12 an hour. "I'm afraid all that we can offer you here is minimum wage plus tips." "That's fine. I don't ever want to go back to that other kind of job again. It was very stressful, and I want to work in an environment that is a little more down to earth. The pay cut is worth it to me, and if I ever have a really good day and get even close to $4 an hour in tips, then it will be the same pay for doing work that is more my cup of tea." "I can assure you that this job can be very stressful. Also, the only position available right now is for a dishwasher, and the tips for that are minimal. After the waitresses divvy up their tips with the cook, he then divvies a small amount from that to the busboys and the dishwasher. On a really busy day, you probably still won't even come close to $4 an hour in tips." Mike was trying to dissuade him. "That's fine. Like I said, the change in scenery and the changes in my life's priorities will make it all worthwhile." Rob stuck to his guns. Proper key phrases were his bullets. He knew how to aim them. "We are also open very late hours. Are you fine with that?" "Yeah, I prefer the night hours. I'm available on weekends and holidays. I prefer the shifts that no one else wants to work." "And why is that? Don't you have family and loved ones?" Mike asked. "Yes." Rob looked fondly at Sue. She smiled at him. Rob continued, "I just prefer to have my time off be when everyone else is working and vice versa. I get the city to myself. It helps me run errands faster, and I can avoid daytime traffic that way." Mike chuckled. "The traffic is murder in this city." "Yeah, murder." Rob forced a chuckle right along with Mike the Dick. If Rob had to wonder whom his next victim might be, he might very well suspect it could easily be Mike. "You know what, Rob?" Mike asked him. "What?" he asked back. "I'm going to give you the job." Mike's voice thickened when he made that statement. It was like he was sanctimoniously inaugurating a new public official. Rob stood up and shook his hand and thanked him. "Now I want you to fill out a few papers, and then you can start immediately." "That's great," Rob said as he sat back down. "Thank you so much, and thank you, Sue, for the recommendation." He looked appreciatively at her. "Actually," Mike began, "I'm hiring you despite Sue's recommendation." He raised an eyebrow at her. "Don't even fucking start with me, Mike. I'm not on the clock right now, so I'm not being paid to put up with any bullshit from you," she snapped back at him. Mike looked at Rob and let out an embarrassed laugh. "Women, huh?" "They can be murder," Rob replied. "Yeah, murder," Sue said with a sly smile. "Anyway, Sue," Mike said very dismissively, "thank you for the recommendation and for coming down on your time off. I'm going to keep Rob here for a little while longer. Is that okay with you, Rob? Mike asked him. Certainly, he said. Well, I'll leave you boys to it. Welcome aboard, Rob, Sue said as she got up. Yes, welcome aboard, Mike said as if his line had been stolen. Sue gave Rob a little hug while he sat in his chair. He reached up and grabbed her arms and thanked her again. Oh, don't thank me yet. You've just boarded the most disastrous voyage. Thank you, Sue. That will be enough, Mike said to her as she left. He guffawed, pretending to be in on the joke. She closed the door behind her. That is one tough girl, Mike said to Rob, gauging him for a reaction. Yeah, she's been through a lot, Rob said in a very straightforward manner. Definitely. Mike nodded and realized that Rob would not divulge any personal information or gossip. Well, we are very proud to offer health benefits, including dental. It goes through our own very affordable insurance company. Do you offer life insurance? Rob asked him. He gave Rob a quizzical look. The bank offered it with their job package, and I took them up on it. Always good to have peace of mind for those loved ones. Yes, I suppose so. Let me get out the contract and check for you. Mike did check, and it was an option that was available. That's not a popular consideration usually. Most people are concerned with their health while they're alive and don't really want their pay deducted in the most remote chance of... I would like it, please, Rob interrupted. Can I assume that you'll be getting the health insurance as well? No, thank you. Mike looked like he was trying to figure out how he was being scammed, and then he quickly gave up. Suit yourself. Here's the contract and your W-4 for your tax information. He handed Rob the papers and a pen. Rob leaned forward and began filling out the papers on Mike's petite desk. Well, I'll leave you to fill all this out. When you're done, come and find me, and we can have you get started. Sure thing, Rob said as he began to rise to see Mike out. Mike was out of the room before Rob could finish unfolding his knees. Rob sat back down and made sure to check the box to accept life insurance. He chose the maximum amount, which was for $100,000. He had to sign at the bottom to agree that a total of $13.83 would be taken out of his checks each month. He signed it and made Suzanne Cooper the beneficiary.